Okay, thank you. First of all, very warm welcome to Cardinal Presents iComply, our new exciting compliance tool, which we're very proud of. We're going to take you through that today. I know that most people say compliance is boring, but we've made compliance sexy and exciting. So we're really looking forward to taking you through it and appreciate your time. Just agenda and some house rules or housekeeping. Let's just move on to the next slide. First of all, those of you who haven't met me, my name is Craig Grasco. I am the Chief Commercial Officer here at Cardinal. So nice to meet you if I haven't met you. And then post the webinar, if you've got any interest in the product, you can either get hold of Candy Perry, who I'm going to introduce shortly, who's the product owner, or you can get hold of me directly and we'll be happy to have conversations around the compliance tool. As we go through the webinar, you can post questions or on the chat. And what we'll do is post the presentation, we'll be able to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So I'm going to hand over shortly to Candy, and just a bit of background on Candy. Candy is our iComply product owner. Candy joined the Cardinal Group via our sister company Custom App over 2 years ago, and she's honed her skills with digital enablement. She does come with a very heavy finance and insurance background, predominantly for the last 15 years working with FSPs and practical compliance. So she's really well positioned to talk to us about iComply. This is her forte. She loves it. She's very passionate about it. And we're very excited, Candy, for you to take us through your solution. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand over officially to you, Candy.
Thank you, Craig, and good afternoon, everybody. Let me share screen. Craig, do you want to give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So really looking forward to sharing our new solution with you, iComply. And Craig really did take the words right out of my mouth when he said we're trying to make compliance sexy. So I might have my work cut out for me, but I'm certainly up for the challenge. So iComply is a cloud-based solution, and it really is there to make compliance simple and hopefully more fun. So already right there, we have put fun and compliance into the same sentence. So hopefully that really is a telltale sign of things to come. Lost my mouse. So let's just unpack for a moment why we've actually done this and what the motivating factors were. And the first thing we did was we looked at the industry challenges. Now, if you have joined this compliance webinar, you are clearly the people who are involved in compliance on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted here when I say that the biggest challenges that FSPs face is really keeping track of not only your FSP information, but all of the FSP information of all the other FSPs that you do business with, and the fact that it's very disparate. It's sitting in somebody else's office, it's somebody else's share drive, it's somebody else's Excel spreadsheet, and it's disparate and in multiple places. The other difficult item is that we have to actually constantly keep up with legislation and the changes, submission dates, and so on and so forth, and document renewal. And then it's about maintaining that central repository of all compliance for your policies, standards, and guidelines. And then last but not least, being able to keep track of basic operating standards and the rules of engagement. So why do we need a compliance platform? And we've put down 8 items over here, which I'll talk to. And the first one, from a compliance perspective, is always about risk mitigation. How do we do things so that we take risk out of our business? How do we take compliance and move it into an online sphere? How do we manage real-time regulatory compliance? How do we build standard operating procedures? I'm going to talk to all of these in a moment. How do we reduce the cost of compliance? Now, I'm sure you all have a compliance officer, either internally or externally, who have used the phrase with you, the cost of compliance. You should really try the cost of non-compliance. So we've all heard that phrase, and it really is not just about the rand value of the cost of compliance. It's the time and the people that we actually have to utilize to actually tick all of those boxes and remain compliant. How do we manage document and data management so that the document is live? It's not just sitting in somebody's folder somewhere. We also need the necessary traceability and audit trails from a security perspective, and we need to be proactive about our compliance management. So what do all these things mean? So if you consider our real-time regulatory compliance and proactive compliance management, let's just think about the fact that we have got all of these documents sitting in folders and share drives and so on and so forth. But we are very often reactive to compliance as opposed to proactive. Our PI cover expires and then we run around trying to fix things. If you're an administrator or an insurer, you know that you have a certain document that needs to get signed every single year, and it gets sent out to all of your intermediaries, and now you need to keep track of those documents coming back. And that's being done on Excel spreadsheets. And that is not necessarily proactive. It's not an easy means by which to actually manage that process. Your document and data management. We are loading our expiry dates of documents onto an Excel spreadsheet, but those expiry dates don't jump out at you and say, hey, in the next 30 days, this document is going to expire. And then the other thing that's really, really interesting about a compliance platform, which I think is not spoken about enough, is the standard operating procedures that a platform allows. Now, if you consider the type of people who are very much managing compliance in your organization, you have people who have LLBs, who have got years and years of experience, and yet they are doing manual capture of data. And the reason they're doing that is because the risk for error is so, the error itself is simple to make, but the risk involved with that error is so high. Whereas with a platform, we can really build in those standard operating procedures and share the load with people who are really geared to be able to assist from an administrative perspective. So from a compliance platform perspective, and we understand from a POPI perspective, we've all gone through POPI. I really miss the days when POPI was a lovely, lovely Afrikaans school. But POPI, we hit POPI with we hit the ground running with POPI, and so much of that is around security. And it's really important that our platform meets all of the requirements from a security perspective. So iComply brings with it and is underpinned by the security for your data, your network, and your user. It's expertly built by people who understand not only compliance, but understand software as well. And one of the things that's really interesting about a compliance platform is because legislation changes so often, you really need the right type of technology stack or architecture that is able to be very flexible and scalable to be able to accommodate those changes quickly. We can't have a change in legislation and then we say, oh, well, it's going to take us 1.5 years for us to actually be able to develop this. It needs to be able to change, and it needs to be able to change fast. And that really talks to the tested architecture that iComply is underpinned by. We need to integrate seamlessly with third parties, which I'll explain to you in a couple of slides' time. It's a secure hosted environment from a compliance perspective, so it sits in the cloud. It has all the necessary redundancies, backups, and support, so you can tick that off with your compliance officer from an audit perspective. and it needs to be online, real-time, and completely transparent. So from a compliance perspective as well, iComply in its simplest form is going to change the way that we actually do compliance. It's very simple in that the way that we currently do compliance, the traditional way of managing compliance, it's cumbersome. Let's think about all of those Excel spreadsheets that sit in all these different places. It's admin intensive. It's got a whole bunch of people who are managing different facets of your compliance. It's manually driven, and it really does leave a lot of room for error. And iComply's mission is to be able to turn that on its head. So I'm pretty sure that many of you have already sat in on some of the Cardinal presentations over the last couple of months, which are very exciting. And iComply forms part of the iPlatform suite of digital-first innovation products. So you've seen this slide if you have seen those sessions, just around all of the different solutions and channels that we will also make use of in the iComply platform itself from a digital ecosystem perspective. So that means that we will also be bringing in our various smart links, our channels that we go to market, whether we're going to use SMSs and emails and so on and so forth in the iComply process. And then what's really important as well is the fact that this layer at the bottom does also talk to the integration into various third-party systems as well. It's also important to note that from a compliance perspective, we had to start somewhere. Compliance and regulation, as you know, is very, very broad. And we decided to start with phase for very obvious reasons because we're closely aligned to the short-term insurance industry. However, what's been really interesting is that through our engagement with our stakeholders, what we find is that we automatically start to creep into additional legislations and acts, and we are quite convinced that over the next couple of months, the iComply system will evolve to traverse multiple acts and accommodate more and more regulation requirements. And FSP, there are, I think it's 11,500 active FSPs at the moment. A portion of those are short-term insurance FSPs, which means that phase forms a very large part of that. However, there are also FSPs for life, and there are FSPs for medical, and their requirements may be slightly different. And we're quite convinced that all of that will ultimately form part of this greater iComply platform. So, how does iComply benefit you as an FSP, and why is it right for your business? First of all, you're plugging into an unparalleled collection of innovation and technology capabilities. And if you think about how compliance is done now, a collection of innovation and technology capabilities is not the first thing that comes to mind when we think about our compliance, our current compliance processes. We're connecting into compliance expertise. We're the client implementations and the expectations from our clients as well. And from your clients, how do you engage with your FSPs from a compliance perspective? So let's just recap. It's a cloud-based software as a service model. It is all your compliance requirements in one place. And this is really important. I just want to make a note, make mention of this. And I mentioned it very early on in the session as well, in that compliance is segregated. We really are trying to bring all of the compliance components into one platform. The larger an organization, the more likely it is that your rep management is happening with your KI. Your contract management is happening with legal. Your training for all of your product-specific training or general training is being done through HR. Your reps' documents are being managed by somebody else again, and we have this disparate view. And what we want to do is bring all of those users into one environment so that everybody has the necessary access so that they can actually see compliance from that organizational view and not just this single view of what their role is in the organization. It makes collaboration easy and provides the visibility into compliance performance with dashboards and reports. So from a dashboarding perspective and a reporting perspective, what this simply means is when you log on a Monday morning, you're going to see your dashboard items and it's going to say 7 of my FSPs, their BBB, EE certificates are expiring this month. And that's a call to action so that you know that now is the time for you to actually reach out and actually collect those documents. Or, hey, I've actually got 2 reps who haven't completed their CPD hours. Let me get onto them and find out if they haven't uploaded it or haven't they done it. What help do they actually require? In terms of tracking for regulatory changes, it helps with, from a dashboarding perspective again, to ensure that everything is highlighted so that you know exactly what is expected of you for that month or the following month thereafter. It reduces operational costs and most importantly, it increases efficiency. So let's take the example of a PI cover report. If you are an administrator or an insurer and you want to pull a report that says, how many of my FSPs, A, have got a PI cover document uploaded, and when is that document expiring? For somebody to go and make sure 100% that that is correct, it might take them weeks, it could take them a month to actually go and collate all of that information. Here, at the click of a button, I can actually download that report and say, hey, I've got 500 FSPs, 450 of them have actually got a document uploaded, and 10 of them are expiring this month. Let me get onto the other 50 and make 100% sure that they actually send me their PI covers. And that happens in a few minutes, as opposed to historically what could actually take a couple of weeks or even a month. So the way that we are looking at iComply is really from a very modular approach. And what that means is that even though an FSP is an FSP is an FSP, how an intermediary works with iComply will be somewhat different to how an administrator or a UMA or an insurer will work with iComply. For a broker who has multiple reps, they really want to use the iComply platform so that they can manage all of their representatives and all of their contracts. An administrator and insurer, they want to be able to make 100% sure that, hey, when I'm onboarding a new intermediary, I want that process to be seamless. So from an onboarding process perspective, we have built an agency application management tool out that absolutely requires no paperwork, no physical paper, which is a very, very exciting module for us. So let me give you an example. So as an insurer, I want to onboard Craig. I'm still looking at your picture over the top. I'm going to onboard Craig's brokers. So Candy, the insurer, sends a link out to Craig's insurance, to Craig's brokers, and Craig clicks on a link, and there opens up his agency application. Craig completes a whole host of information, and he uploads the required documentation, and he submits it back to the insurer. The insurer can now go through the document along with a checklist to say, hey, I'm happy with this document, I'm happy with that document. And if everything passes, we're then able to actually automatically send out the contract to Craig's brokers. Craig clicks on the link, he signs digitally, and it goes back to the insurer and gets stored neatly in the insurer's FSP profile. And that is all underpinned with the necessary dashboarding and reporting that happens alongside that. So if you are sending out multiple agency applications on a regular basis, you can see I've sent out 3, only 2 have been acknowledged. I've sent out, I've had a response. Let me click on that. So again, we talk about that call to action and make sure that your FSP is able to actually manage the process far more effectively. It also has a user-friendly self-service interface for the administration of your FSP itself. So as an FSP, you will do business with multiple FSPs. So not only are you able to retain information for your organization, but any information that you feel is relevant with any other third parties. And what we've done is we haven't limited ourselves to just being able to manage FSPs, because your outsource agreements and your suppliers are as important to you as your FSPs. So you're not limited in being able to create Cardinal as an outsource agreement with all of their information and any renewal dates or information about your Cardinal agreement that you would like to store on your iComply platform. So as you can see here, we can create a new FSP, new users, we create new representatives from this landing page, we can create new KIs and a new agreement. So all of your agreements with any of your third parties can actually be stored on the iComply platform itself. Along with that is reporting and our monitoring as well, which I'll talk you through. There we go. So creating a new FSP, what type of information would you want to store for yourself and any other FSPs or companies that you want to do business with? So anything along the lines of trading name, the registered name, your registration number or a trust number, all of your information in terms of your financial year end, when it was authorized, and the FSP type. Now, we have created different FSP types so that you can actually see who you're actually dealing with from an administrator perspective or an insurer perspective or an intermediary or a supplier. So all of that belongs on that FSP card itself. The other thing that you'll see over here, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, is the FSP status. Now, for a broker, you know your FSP status. You know that you are authorized or you have been suspended or it's been elapsed. But when you are an administrator or insurer who has got multiple FSPs, again, going through that process of trying to determine whether or not all of your FSPs are authorized is a cumbersome process. Here, what we're able to do is actually alert the user of iComply to the fact that last week, this FSP was authorized, however, this week, they're elapsed. And once again, that talks to that call to action. And it really is about being proactive with your compliance so that you can mitigate risk for your business. Okay, so creating a new representative. So when we create a new representative, much the same way that we can create a new KI, we're able to load all of their, what I refer to as their generic information, name, surname, date of birth, ID, along with all of their training material as well. So we're able to accommodate our product-specific training, our class of business training, as well as CPD, as well as any general training. Again, we haven't made iComply and limited it just to compliance. If you want to load general health and safety training to this representative, you're absolutely able to do so. And it is accommodated in the training mod, not the training module, in the training icon itself. Okay, so this is one of my favorite parts about iComply, because if you think about all of the documents that you have to keep track of. It really is such an admin-intensive process. So document management is really synonymous with compliance. And that means that if we forget about a document or we're late with a document, it really does put our compliance in jeopardy. So when we're attaching documents to our FSP, we can attach things along the lines of our BBBEE certificate, our PI cover, our VAT registration certificate, any other outsource agreement or any document that you'd actually like, and that list is certainly not exhaustive. What we're then able to do is go and allocate an expiry date. And the minute we allocate an expiry date, it forms part of your dashboarding and your reporting, and that's when the compliance platform comes alive. The more data we put in, the more it's going to talk back to you and say, hey, this is where there's a flag. Make sure you get onto this. After that, I can't help you. So if the flag is up, nobody does anything, that's a different discussion. And we can send out multiple emails, maybe over and over again until somebody actually actions what's necessary. But we're able to then attach the document to the FSP, store the document's metadata, so that's the information itself. We can store the document itself and then categorize it. So I want to see BBBEE certificates. That gets loaded. We can easily search for it. We can track the expiries, and we're able to then view it as part of our reports and our dashboard. I hope people are getting excited in the background, because I'm getting excited. So a big portion of compliance is really around our rep and our KI management as well. And obviously, the more reps and KIs there are, the harder it is to wrap your arms around everything and keep up to date with all requirements. So from a rep and KI management perspective, we're able to manage that high level information that I spoke to you about, as well as their documents. So the same way our FSP has got our PI cover or our SIPC document loaded, so can we load the documents for our representatives, an ID, a marriage certificate, things along those lines. But not only that, when we load our training, we're also going to load the training confirmation as well. So here's my CPD certificate, here's my regulatory exam certificate, and so on and so forth. And then from a dashboarding and monitoring perspective, the more information we get into the system, the more the information is going to speak back to you. And then we'll be able to audit them. And that's on my next slide, in which I'm going to actually refer to the extended list of all the new innovation solutions that are coming from an iComply perspective as well. And just so that you know, all of these innovation items comes from our engagement with our stakeholders. And that's what's been so interesting about this project, is that it's so collaborative, because with the FSPs that we've launched with, it really is about, hey, Candy, what about this? And then this list just gets longer and longer and longer, and it's really, really exciting to work with everybody from that perspective. Okay, so on our roadmap items, we have the following modules that will be coming on board over the next few months. The first one is iComplaint. So we were going to call it iComplaint, but it sort of had a bit of a negative connotation to it. So it's now iComplaint. And this really does talk to our TCF process. So it's the ability for the management, the case management of complaints and compliments in your organization. iAudit is really taking, again, those Excel spreadsheets, taking your Excel spreadsheets and turning them into an immersive quality management module. So that means that whether it's you internally who are auditing your reps and your KIs, or it's a compliance officer who is doing audits from a FSP or rep and KI perspective, we'll be able to build out the iAudit solution along with the necessary reports and dashboards and PDF documents that it will generate. iTrade is a really, really interesting concept. A lot of what we've discussed with various stakeholders is really that ability to do e-training, where as an insurer or administrator, I can actually send out my training via the iComply system to a particular rep or KI who can complete that training and actually generate a certificate, which once again populates neatly into that relevant rep or KI's training folder. So that it's a full straight through process that we want to actually look at building out. Then last but not least, it's iCheck. And that is our automated fit and proper check. So if DOFA date this and this, then this, and we just build out that solution so that we can just put in a handful of data so that it can actually tell us if this representative either still meets the fit and proper requirements, or from an employment perspective, you can do that check first before you actually employ them. Okay, so two integrations that are critical to iComply success is the ability for us to integrate directly into C360. Obviously, there is a host of information that is identical in C360 that will reside in iComply as well. And that ability to be able to update the one with the other is critical so that we don't have duplication of capture. The top one is the integration. It's for FSCA data. It's integration for us into a third party where you'll be able to actually do your profile updates for your reps and KIs, add, edit, and delete. And you'll also be able to get a host of data from an FSP perspective. So everything, if you've been emailing the FSCA and asking them to load a new rep and remove another one, you won't need to do that anymore. You'll be able to do it directly through iComply. Even if you're logging onto the FSCA, it won't be a requirement because you'll be able to do it through the platform itself. Okay. So that's also quite an exciting new integration that will be available very soon. And that is our iComply presentation in a nutshell. So I hope there are lots of questions for me, Craig, and I hope that everybody enjoyed that, and it really does give them a taste of, you know, what we want to do with this compliance platform, number one. And number two, I really hope that there are lots of people who are going to reach out so that we can do individual presentations as well.
Candy, thank you very much. That was very impressive. You know, it says compliance made simple. It definitely is made simple, and it is made sexy and easy to use. The iComply tool and tool sets and features and offerings are really impressive. So from a Cardinal perspective, I'd like to extend an introductory offer, a special offer, to the first 20 clients or attendees that get hold of me post this presentation. Will get 20, well, each attendee will get a free consulting session with Candy on your compliance requirements and to see how iComply can enable your business. So that's 20 free consulting sessions to the first 20 attendees that contact me after the session. You can contact me on Craig G, C-R-A-I-G-G, at cardinal.co.za. And if that's difficult to remember, info@cardinal.co.za. So yeah, really well done, Candy. Thank you very much. And to all of you that have joined us today, appreciate your time. And we'll look forward to chatting to you guys and making your compliance simple. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, team.
Yeah.